Hello, friends. If you're curious about the movie New Jack City, 1991, you're in the perfect place. Don't forget to give this video a quick like, it really helps us out. And if you're new here, hit subscribe to stay updated on all the latest movie deep dives. Let's jump right in. Released in 1991, New Jack City is one of those iconic films that defined a certain era of cinema and became a cultural touchstone. Directed by Mario Van Peebles and featuring an ensemble cast that includes Wesley Snipes, Ice-T, and Chris Rock, the movie tells a gritty, pulse-pounding story set against the backdrop of New York City's crime-ridden streets. It's a fascinating exploration of power, loyalty, and survival in a world where the stakes are as high as they can get. Blending elements of action, drama, and crime, it stands as one of the definitive films about the drug trade and urban decay of the early 90s. But it's not just a tale of gangsters and law enforcement. New Jack City digs deep into human nature, exploring what people are willing to do for power, respect, and money. At its core, New Jack City follows the rise and fall of Nino Brown, a ruthless drug lord whose empire is built on the back of his cunning, charisma, and brutal methods. Wesley Snipes delivers a career-defining performance as Nino, giving us a character who is both magnetic and terrifying in equal measure. But the movie isn't just about Nino, it's about the people who surround him, the ones who try to take him down, and the lives caught in the crossfire. Ice-T stars as Scotty, a narcotics detective who is determined to bring down Nino's empire, and his journey of corruption, redemption, and moral struggle is one of the movie's central arcs. Meanwhile, Chris Rock gives one of his early breakout performances as Pookie, a crack addict who once served as Nino's hitman and becomes a key figure in the unfolding drama. The film opens with a visceral punch. Set in the tough neighborhoods of Harlem, we quickly get a sense of the world Nino has created, a world where the demand for crack cocaine is at an all-time high, and no one, whether they're on the street or in the corridors of power, is safe. The crack epidemic has a stranglehold on the community, and Nino Brown has figured out how to profit from it in ways that make him more dangerous than any typical street-level dealer. The power struggle between law enforcement and Nino's criminal organization, the Cash Money Brothers, escalates rapidly. We see the ruthlessness of Nino's operations as he battles for dominance, leaving a trail of destruction and betrayal in his wake. As the film progresses, it's not just about the drug trade, it's about the war between good and evil and the gray area that exists between the two. Scotty, played by Ice-T, finds himself forced to confront his own moral compass as he becomes increasingly involved in the operation to bring Nino down. He's not your typical clean-cut hero. He's a man who has his own demons and is willing to bend the rules to get the job done. This moral ambiguity adds an extra layer of tension to the movie, as we watch Scotty navigate a world where the lines between right and wrong are often blurred. What makes New Jack City even more captivating is how it delves into the personal relationships that form and dissolve within the chaos of the drug trade. We witness the formation of Nino's empire as he recruits his closest allies from all walks of life. From Pookie, his former hitman who turns to a life of addiction, to his loyal but equally ruthless second-in-command, G-Money. These relationships form the heart of the story, giving us insight into Nino's psyche and motivations, and making his eventual downfall all the more tragic. But don't get too comfortable thinking you have the plot figured out, because New Jack City has some twists and turns that will keep you on the edge of your seat. From the moment Nino Brown's empire starts to unravel, the stakes rise exponentially. At one point, we see the lengths Nino will go to in order to protect his power. He's a man who will stop at nothing to maintain control, and that desperation leads to some truly shocking moments. One of the major twists involves Nino's complex relationship with his loyal crew. Who can he trust, and who will betray him? It's a question that hangs over the film and keeps you guessing as the story unfolds. And it's not just about the criminals. New Jack City gives us a nuanced look at the police force as well, showing the cracks in the system that allow figures like Nino to thrive. Scotty's internal conflict, as he is drawn deeper into the morally gray area of law enforcement, is not just about the drug trade. It's about the choices that individuals make when they are confronted with extreme situations, and the toll those choices take on their conscience. The movie's tension is further amplified by its outstanding soundtrack, which is an integral part of the experience. The music, which mixes 90s hip-hop with gritty street beats, adds an extra layer of energy to the film and enhances the high-stakes drama. The soundtrack is so iconic that it became inseparable from the movie itself, reinforcing the themes of street life and the harsh realities the characters face. But of course, at the heart of New Jack City is the ultimate showdown, the battle between Nino Brown and the forces trying to take him down. It's a battle that's not just about power, it's about survival. As the movie builds toward its conclusion, we see the various characters forced to make choices that will either seal their fate or offer a chance at redemption. Nino's reign may seem unstoppable at times, but the movie teases the inevitable consequences of his actions. Nothing lasts forever, and for all his power and control, Nino Brown can't escape the fact that his empire is built on betrayal, violence, and addiction. The movie's conclusion is intense, emotional, and satisfying. The final moments of the film aren't just about the resolution of the plot. They're about the characters confronting their own legacies, understanding the damage that's been done, and coming to terms with the cost of their actions. In a film full of shocking twists and brutal betrayals, the ending of New Jack City leaves a lasting impression, serving as a poignant reminder of the price of ambition, loyalty, and power. In summary, New Jack City is a high-octane crime drama that delves into the darker sides of human nature, morality, and ambition. Its unforgettable characters, explosive twists, and razor-sharp commentary on the drug epidemic make it one of the most compelling films of its time. Wesley Snipes delivers an unforgettable performance as Nino Brown, a character that has become synonymous with power and corruption in the world of crime cinema. Ice-T's portrayal of Scotty brings complexity to the lawman figure, making him more than just a typical hero. He's a man struggling to do what's right in a world where right and wrong are often hard to distinguish. And with a soundtrack that still resonates today, New Jack City is more than just a movie. It's a cultural moment that captured the struggles, the triumphs, and the unrelenting challenges of the streets. As we move forward, keep in mind that this is just the beginning of the journey. From the rise of Nino's empire to the eventual downfall, from the moral dilemmas faced by the characters to the explosive confrontations that fuel the plot, New Jack City is filled with layers that will keep you thinking long after the credits roll. These moments of tension within the CMB are crucial, as they foreshadow the betrayals and conflicts that will ultimately bring about the film's climax. Another key development is the growing rivalry between Nino and the other drug lords in the city. As Nino's power and influence continue to grow, other criminals take notice. This sets the stage for a larger conflict in which Nino must not only fend off law enforcement but also protect his empire from rival factions who want a piece of the lucrative crack trade. The streets of New York are a battleground, and Nino's enemies are closing in on all sides. Scotty's investigation intensifies as he works to gather more evidence against Nino and the Cash Money brothers. His partnership with Pookie proves to be both a blessing and a curse. Pookie's information helps Scotty get closer to Nino, but it also puts him in greater danger. As Scotty navigates this perilous path, he begins to question the methods of his own department. The line between justice and vengeance begins to blur as the film digs deeper into the personal stakes of this high-stakes battle. The tension between Scotty and Nino reaches a boiling point during a series of escalating confrontations. As Scotty gets closer to taking down Nino, Nino becomes more paranoid and more ruthless. He begins to distrust even those closest to him, setting the stage for his eventual downfall. But what's most striking about these moments is the way they mirror each other. Both Nino and Scotty are men of action. One is driven by ambition, while the other is driven by a sense of justice, but both are forced to confront their own flaws and the consequences of their decisions. One of the most chilling moments in the film occurs when Nino, having realized that Pookie has been working as an informant, turns on him. The betrayal is swift and brutal, and Pookie pays the ultimate price for his attempt to escape the clutches of the drug trade. This moment is significant because it illustrates the unforgiving nature of Nino's world. Once someone betrays him, there is no redemption. Pookie's tragic end serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of crossing Nino, and it pushes the story toward its inevitable climax. In the midst of this escalating conflict, The stakes are raised even further when Nino begins to focus on expanding his influence beyond the streets of Harlem. He sees himself not just as a drug lord but as a kingpin with the potential to control the entire crack market. His ambition and arrogance grow as he consolidates power, alienating those around him in the process. This sense of invincibility, however, proves to be his greatest weakness, and the tension builds as we know that his reign of terror will not last forever. The first half of New Jack City sets the stage for an intense battle between Nino's empire and the forces trying to bring him down. As the movie progresses, we see Nino's rise to power mirrored by Scotty's moral descent, as both men are drawn into a world where there is no easy way out. The key events, Pookie's betrayal, the increasing tensions within Nino's organization, and the growing conflict between Nino and law enforcement, create a charged atmosphere that propels the story forward. As we watch these two men navigate the treacherous waters of crime and justice, we know that the story is building toward a climactic confrontation, and the twists and turns will only get more intense from here. As the second half of New Jack City unfolds, the tension that has been building throughout the first part of the film reaches a boiling point. Nino Brown's empire, once seemingly invincible, is starting to crack under the weight of betrayal, corruption, and law enforcement pressure. We're now in the thick of the conflict, and the stakes couldn't be higher for everyone involved. Following Pookie's tragic death, the movie takes a darker turn. His betrayal, one that Nino had seen coming from a mile away, has set the stage for a brutal chain of events. Nino, feeling the sting of losing a trusted ally and the need to assert his dominance, begins to unravel even more. He grows increasingly paranoid, unable to trust anyone, and every interaction becomes charged with potential danger. The loss of Pookie is more than just a blow to his operation. It's a personal loss, and it marks the beginning of the end for his reign. The dynamic within the Cash Money brothers becomes increasingly strained, and even G Money, Nino's right-hand man, starts questioning their leader's judgment. Meanwhile, Scotty, the narcotics detective who has been working tirelessly to take down Nino, is starting to reach his breaking point. His investigation is making progress, but the toll it's taking on him is undeniable. Scotty is faced with constant temptation, the lure of revenge, the urge to bend the rules, and the guilt of getting deeper and deeper into a morally ambiguous world. He's no longer just trying to bring down Nino for the sake of justice. It's personal now. His growing frustration with the system and the corruption around him push him to the edge, and his actions start to have consequences that will affect both his career and his soul. The movie shifts gears as we enter a new phase in the investigation. With Pookie gone and Nino's empire more vulnerable than ever, Scotty and his partner, Nick Peretti, begin to make their final moves. Their strategy is to infiltrate the inner circle of Nino's operation, using the very people who've been loyal to him to bring him down. But this is no simple task. Nino's empire is a fortress, and everyone who works for him is either too scared or too loyal to turn on him. However, one of the major developments in this section of the film is the eventual fracturing of Nino's crew. It becomes clear that G Money, who has always been Nino's closest confidant, is beginning to have second thoughts about the direction of their operation. In one of the most intense scenes in the movie, Nino and G Money have a heated confrontation. G Money, who has been with Nino since the beginning, is questioning the choices Nino is making. He's worried about their safety, the lives they've ruined, and the price of their success. But Nino, as he has done with everyone else, dismisses G's concerns, accusing him of weakness. The tension between them reaches a breaking point, and their friendship, which had been unshakable until now, begins to fray. This confrontation is pivotal because it shows how Nino's unchecked ambition and paranoia are beginning to tear apart everything he's built. Nino's once loyal crew is starting to turn on him, and as we know, betrayal is always the death knell for any criminal organization. As the movie races toward its climax, the game begins to change. Nino's arrogance is his undoing, and his empire begins to collapse from within. The law enforcement officers, led by Scotty, have finally gained the upper hand, and they are closing in on him. With Pookie gone and the rest of his crew in disarray, Nino finds himself isolated, unable to trust anyone. His paranoia peaks, and he starts to lash out violently, taking increasingly reckless risks in an attempt to maintain control. These risks, of course, only hasten his downfall. One of the most significant plot twists in the second half is the revelation that Nino's rise to power has been deeply connected to his personal ties with the city's political and corporate elite. Nino didn't just create a drug empire through brute force, he's had help. The film exposes the deeper layers of corruption in the system, showing how power brokers, politicians, and even some within law enforcement have been complicit in his rise. This revelation adds another layer of complexity to the story, as it underscores the fact that Nino's success was not just the result of his street smarts but also his ability to navigate and exploit the corrupt structures that allowed him to thrive. This theme of systemic corruption plays a central role in the film, revealing the stark truth that Nino didn't just conquer the streets, he had the city's infrastructure behind him. As Nino's empire crumbles, the movie reaches its highest point of intensity. The betrayals, the manipulations, and the moral conflicts all come to a head in a series of explosive confrontations. Scotty's investigation has finally led him to the point where he can take Nino down, but at what cost? The line between right and wrong is now so blurred that even Scotty is no longer sure what justice truly means. He's been forced to compromise his own beliefs, making decisions that will haunt him long after the dust settles. In the final stages of the movie, Nino's hubris proves to be his greatest flaw. In a climactic scene, he faces the consequences of his actions head-on. His empire, which once seemed invincible, is reduced to rubble. The people who were once loyal to him now turn against him, and his carefully constructed world of power and fear collapses. This sequence is as emotionally powerful as it is action-packed, showing the full extent of Nino's fall from grace. The once mighty Kingpin is now exposed for what he truly is, a man who believed he could conquer the world but was ultimately undone by his own pride. As the film reaches its resolution, we are given a glimpse of what remains after the chaos subsides. Scotty, having successfully taken down Nino, is left to grapple with the aftermath of the battle he's fought. The question of whether justice has truly been served lingers in the air. Nino may have been brought to justice, but at what cost? The people he destroyed, the lives he ruined. Can any of it truly be made right? Scotty's final moments in the film reflect the emotional toll of the journey, as he is left to contemplate the consequences of his choices and the harsh reality of the world he's chosen to fight against. The film concludes with a sense of finality, but also an open-ended reflection on the cycle of crime and corruption. Nino's downfall may have been inevitable, but it's clear that the world he created will continue to operate as it always has. The system that allowed him to rise is still in place, and though one drug lord has fallen, there will always be another waiting to take his place. New Jack City ends not with a sense of closure, but with a haunting reminder that the struggle for power and control is endless, and the battle between good and evil is a fight that never truly ends. As the credits roll, we are left with a mixture of emotions. The action-packed nature of the film and the explosive climax make for a thrilling viewing experience, but the deeper themes of corruption, betrayal, and moral compromise resonate long after the film ends. In the end, New Jack City is not just a story about the fall of a drug lord, it's a reflection on the moral cost of ambition, the price of loyalty, and the complexities of justice in a corrupt world. The unraveling of Nino Brown's empire in New Jack City reaches its peak, as tensions heighten and the stakes grow exponentially. With each passing moment, his power slips further out of his grasp, and the intricacies of his world, once so meticulously controlled, begin to fracture. The film's sharp shift toward a series of betrayals, alliances, and showdowns sets the stage for a gripping conclusion, one where the line between justice and revenge blurs beyond recognition. As the story progresses, the unraveling of Nino's world intensifies. His once impenetrable empire of drugs, violence, and fear starts to crumble under the pressure. For a man who had grown so accustomed to manipulating his surroundings, the loss of control is both inevitable and terrifying. The members of his inner circle, including his closest ally, G-Money, begin to grow disillusioned with Nino's increasingly erratic and violent behavior. The cracks in the facade are becoming more pronounced, and loyalty, which had once been a cornerstone of the Cash Money Brothers, CMB, begins to fade as mistrust and resentment take hold. G Money's growing skepticism is not just born of fear, but also a deep sense of betrayal. As the film progresses, he begins to question whether his devotion to Nino was worth the devastation it brought. This conflict builds slowly, and it's evident that the relationship between Nino and G Money has reached an emotional tipping point. Their conversations grow more tense, and the cracks in their friendship deepen as Nino's ruthless tactics, fueled by paranoia, strain their bond even further. Meanwhile, Detective Scotty, the narcotics officer working relentlessly to bring Nino down, finds himself in a moral quagmire. His investigation, which started as a simple pursuit of justice, has become personal. After Pookie's tragic death, a casualty of Nino's unrelenting pursuit of power, Scotty feels a burning need for retribution. Yet, he also begins to question the cost of his actions. In his pursuit of Nino, Scotty is drawn into a world where the line between the law and lawlessness is increasingly blurry. He's forced to reckon with his own choices, especially as he grows more involved with the morally ambiguous world of drug enforcement. The tension between Scotty and Nino continues to build throughout this section of the film. Their paths inevitably cross again and again, with each encounter highlighting their fundamental differences. Nino, who built his empire through a combination of manipulation, brutality, and charm, is utterly confident in his ability to outwit anyone who stands in his way. But this confidence, born from years of success, begins to turn into hubris. He overestimates his own invulnerability, believing that he can control any situation, any confrontation, and that nothing will topple the empire he's created. But as his internal world begins to unravel, so too does his grip on the empire he worked so hard to build. One of the turning points in this latter half of the film comes when G Money, feeling the weight of betrayal and mistrust, confronts Nino directly. The scene is loaded with tension. Both characters, once allies, now on opposite sides of an irreparable divide. G Money, who has been a loyal and trusted confidant to Nino for years, is now questioning the wisdom of staying by his side. He can no longer ignore the bloodshed, the lies, and the increasingly toxic atmosphere Nino's reign has fostered. His allegiance to Nino has come at a personal cost, and the realization hits hard as their relationship is stretched beyond the breaking point. In a chilling moment, Nino's brutal response to G Money's disillusionment seals the fate of their friendship. In a world like Nino's, loyalty is everything, and anyone who challenges him risks losing everything. The fallout from this confrontation reverberates through the entire organization, and it marks the beginning of the end. As Nino's power continues to crumble, a series of key plot twists adds complexity to the story. A final betrayal within his organization, instigated by his own paranoia, pushes his empire to the brink. Nino's attempts to maintain control only serve to alienate those around him further. His crew, once fiercely loyal, is now riddled with dissent, and his empire begins to fracture in ways he hadn't anticipated. The tension between Nino and his closest allies, his crew members and the people who helped him rise to power, comes to a boiling point. What was once a united front now seems like a fragile shell waiting to break apart. The dynamics within the police department, too, take a sharp turn. Detective Scotty, who had initially been depicted as the moral center of the story, begins to lose his sense of right and wrong as he digs deeper into the corruption surrounding Nino. The closer he gets to the truth, the more entangled he becomes in the very system he swore to dismantle. He is drawn into a dangerous dance of power and retribution, where his own actions seem to reflect the very chaos he's been trying to fight against. As Scotty struggles with his own demons, he becomes more aware that Nino, for all his faults, is not the only one who has crossed moral lines. This realization fuels his internal conflict and adds an extra layer of complexity to the unfolding drama. In a pivotal sequence, Nino's betrayal of his own crew reaches its apex when he eliminates those closest to him, including G Money. The brutal killing of G Money by Nino's hand is a significant moment. It's the emotional high point of the film, underscoring the depth of Nino's corruption. It's also a sobering reminder that in the world of New Jack City, loyalty is a currency that has little value. Nino has proven that he'll sacrifice anyone, even those who have stood by him from the beginning, if it means preserving his own power. This act of violence against his former friend represents the final shift in Nino's character. No longer the charismatic leader, he's revealed as a man consumed by greed and paranoia, willing to destroy everything and everyone around him to stay on top. Nino's ultimate fall, once unimaginable, now seems inevitable. His empire, once vast and impenetrable, is reduced to rubble by his own hand. In the aftermath of the violence, Scotty and his team are faced with a difficult decision. Having gathered enough evidence to take down Nino and the Cash Money brothers, they prepare for a final confrontation. But the victory feels hollow. As they close in on Nino, it's clear that they've won a battle but lost much more in the process. For Scotty, the satisfaction of bringing down a criminal empire is tempered by the realization that his own soul has been scarred by the compromises he's made along the way. The film's exploration of the blurred lines between justice and vengeance and the personal toll of a war on crime culminates in this emotional reckoning. As the movie reaches its climax, Nino's inevitable fall comes at the hands of those he once trusted the most. His empire crumbles, and in the end, his arrogance, pride, and paranoia are what bring him down. The confrontation between Nino and the law enforcement officers, particularly Scotty, is intense and emotional. The culmination of years of build-up leads to a final, explosive showdown, where both Nino and Scotty are forced to confront the cost of their actions. Nino's demise is not just physical, it's a psychological and emotional unraveling. In his final moments, he faces the full weight of his choices: betrayal, murder, greed, and the destruction of everyone around him. His empire, which once seemed untouchable, lies in ruins, and his life spirals to an inevitable and tragic end. The world he built is now just a memory, one that he will take to his grave. For Scotty, the resolution is bittersweet. He succeeded in taking down Nino, but the victory feels less like triumph and more like a grim acknowledgement of the world he's been a part of. As the film winds down, we see Scotty's weary face as he reflects on the cost of the battle. His quest for justice has come at a price, and it's clear that the war on crime, like the cycle of corruption, is never truly over. The final moments of New Jack City leave the audience with a haunting sense of closure yet open-ended reflection. The battle between good and evil has raged on, but at what cost? In the end, the film serves as a stark commentary on the fragility of power, the corruption of ambition, and the complex moral dilemmas faced by those who seek to navigate a world where right and wrong are not always clearly defined. As the credits roll, the questions linger. Who truly wins in a world where justice is always compromised, and what happens when the empire you've built collapses under the weight of your own actions? The answers are complex, and the impact of the film remains long after the story concludes. The characters in New Jack City are intricately crafted, each embodying the complexities of the world they inhabit. The story focuses on the rise and fall of Nino Brown, the enigmatic drug lord whose empire sits at the center of the film. Around him are a cast of characters that explore loyalty, corruption, and the harsh realities of the urban underworld. Each character is a reflection of a larger societal issue, and their actions speak volumes about the moral choices that define their paths. Nino Brown, portrayed by Wesley Snipes, is the heart of the story, a character whose presence dominates every scene. From the moment he's introduced, Nino is a force to be reckoned with. Charismatic, calculating, and ruthless, he is a man driven by ambition. His rise from the streets to become the leader of the Cash Money brothers is a testament to his intelligence and ruthless nature. However, what makes Nino such a compelling character is not just his rise to power, but the psychological unraveling that occurs as his empire begins to collapse. He is a man who thrives on control, and his deep-seated fear of losing it shapes his every action. Nino's relationship with power is central to the film. His ability to manipulate, dominate, and instill fear in others becomes both his greatest strength and his ultimate downfall. Nino's character is built on contradictions. On the one hand, he is a man who demands respect and loyalty, and on the other, he is incapable of offering either in return. He maintains an almost godlike stature among his followers, and yet, this very stature is fragile. His paranoia starts to consume him as his empire begins to crumble, and we see that beneath the bravado, Nino is a deeply insecure man. His fear of losing control, of being dethroned, is what drives his increasing violence and ruthlessness. Nino's descent into madness is one of the film's most gripping arcs, as his desperation leads him to make decisions that alienate his closest allies. In the end, Nino's downfall is not just the result of external forces, but the consequence of his own inability to adapt, to trust, and to recognize the true cost of his actions. G Money, played by Alan Payne, is Nino's right-hand man and one of the most interesting characters in the film. G represents the loyal soldier who has been with Nino from the very beginning, and his unwavering devotion is a major part of the foundation that allows Nino's empire to thrive. However, as the story progresses, G begins to question his loyalty. He's a man who has seen the consequences of Nino's decisions, the bloodshed, the betrayal, the destruction, and as much as he tries to remain faithful, the toll it takes on him becomes unbearable. G's internal conflict is evident, and his character arc is one of the most tragic in the film. He is ultimately caught between his loyalty to Nino and his desire for a life that is not defined by violence and fear. In the end, his relationship with Nino deteriorates, and the once unbreakable bond between them is shattered. G's death, at the hands of Nino himself, is a brutal reminder of the price of loyalty in a world where trust is constantly tested. Detective Scotty, played by Ice-T, is the film's moral center, or at least the closest thing to one. He is a narcotics officer determined to bring down Nino and his empire. Initially, Scotty is depicted as the archetypal good guy, someone who is unwavering in his commitment to justice. However, as the story unfolds, we begin to see cracks in his character. Scotty's pursuit of Nino becomes increasingly personal, and he begins to blur the lines between right and wrong. His motivations shift from a desire to clean up the streets to a need for revenge. His connection to Pookie, the former addict-turned-informant, plays a significant role in this transformation. Scotty's inner turmoil is a key theme in the film, as he is forced to navigate the complexities of justice, vengeance, and personal morality. Throughout the story, Scotty's character grapples with the same questions that the film itself raises. What is justice? And at what point does the pursuit of justice become indistinguishable from the pursuit of personal gain? Pookie, portrayed by Chris Rock, is another key character who plays a pivotal role in the story's development. At first, Pookie seems like the classic addict, a lost soul consumed by his addiction. However, as the film progresses, we learn that Pookie is not just a casualty of the streets but someone with his own sense of agency. His involvement with law enforcement as an informant is a significant turning point in the story. Pookie's redemption arc is not without its complications, and his eventual death serves as a harsh reminder of the costs of betrayal. Pookie's character is one of the most complex in the film, as he moves from being a victim of addiction to someone who actively participates in the fight against Nino's empire. His death is one of the most emotional moments in the film, a symbol of the high price of loyalty in the dangerous world that New Jack City depicts. Then there's Nino's crew, the Cash Money Brothers, who represent the different facets of loyalty, ambition, and betrayal. Each member of the crew has their own motivations and desires, and their loyalty to Nino is tested in different ways. These characters serve as a microcosm of the larger world Nino has created, each one a reflection of the different paths that can be taken within the criminal underworld. Their interactions with Nino, as well as with one another, reveal the fractures that exist beneath the surface of the empire. The tension within the crew grows as Nino's leadership becomes increasingly erratic, and the members of the crew are forced to choose between loyalty to their leader and self-preservation. The character of Nino's mother, though not a major presence in the film, also provides important insight into his psyche. Nino's relationship with her is complex, and her influence on him is clear. She is the embodiment of the love Nino has lost or never fully understood. His maternal relationship is fraught with tension, as he both loves and resents her for the circumstances of his upbringing. This dynamic is explored subtly in the film, providing a glimpse into Nino's past and the experiences that shaped him into the man he became. The love he has for his mother, however complicated, serves as a rare point of vulnerability for Nino, and it adds a layer of depth to his character. The film's portrayal of the systemic nature of crime is also reflected in the characters of the city's elite, including politicians, businessmen, and even corrupt law enforcement officers. These characters represent the corrupt underpinnings of the city, the structures that allow figures like Nino to rise to power. The film doesn't shy away from exposing the reality that Nino's success was not solely due to his cunning and ruthlessness but also because of the institutional forces that enabled him. These secondary characters, though not as prominent, help paint a broader picture of the world Nino inhabits, highlighting the interconnectedness of crime, politics, and business. The women in New Jack City are also crucial to the narrative, though they don't take center stage as much as the male characters. Nino's relationships with women, particularly his girlfriend, are reflective of his complex nature. His treatment of them is marked by his need for control and power, and yet there are moments where he reveals a softer side, albeit one that is quickly overshadowed by his darker impulses. These characters are not as fully developed as some of the others, but they nonetheless play a significant role in shaping Nino's worldview and in illustrating the way he navigates his relationships with those around him. Ultimately, the film's characters are more than just archetypes. They are representations of the various forces at play within a system of corruption and violence. The choices they make, the alliances they form, and the betrayals they endure all serve to illuminate the central themes of the film: the corrupting nature of power, the fragility of loyalty, and the moral ambiguities that define the struggle for control in a world defined by crime. Each character's arc is a reflection of the larger narrative, and their stories are deeply intertwined with the fate of Nino Brown and the empire he built. The emotional weight of the film lies not just in the explosive action and thrilling plot twists, but in the complex, often tragic journeys of the characters who are caught in its web. The Making of New Jack City in 1991 was a tale of creative vision, unexpected challenges, and surprising behind-the-scenes moments that contributed to the film's lasting impact. The movie not only became a staple of urban cinema but also left a lasting legacy due to its gritty realism, memorable performances, and a few strange and fascinating facts that have since become part of the lore surrounding its production. These lesser-known details and unusual occurrences provide a new layer of appreciation for a film that, despite its iconic status, had its fair share of trials, quirks, and surprises on the journey from script to screen. The first surprising fact stems from the film's casting process. The iconic role of Nino Brown, the charismatic yet ruthless drug lord, was played by Wesley Snipes. However, Snipes wasn't the first actor considered for the role. In fact, several actors were initially offered the part before Snipes came on board. At one point, actor and rapper Ice-T was in talks to play Nino Brown. However, Ice-T, who eventually took on the role of Detective Scotty Appleton, wasn't convinced he could play a drug kingpin in the way the character demanded. It wasn't until director Mario Van Peebles convinced him that the role was worth considering that he agreed to take on the part of the moral center of the story. Ironically, Ice-T's involvement in the film helped him better understand the world of crime and the complexities of characters like Nino, giving him a more nuanced approach to his own role as a cop. As for Wesley Snipes, the actor went through a transformation to embody the character of Nino Brown. The role required Snipes to tap into a darker, more dangerous side, and he fully immersed himself in the role. Snipes' performance was electric, earning him widespread acclaim and cementing his reputation as a versatile actor. But the fact that Snipes wasn't the first choice for the part is just one of many strange turns that would take place during the film's production. Another fascinating behind-the-scenes fact involves the film's cinematography and the use of lighting. The film's director, Mario Van Peebles, was determined to create a visual style that matched the intensity of the film's narrative. This was especially important in scenes set in the grimy, high-stakes world of drug dealing. In many of these scenes, the lighting was deliberately dimmed to create an atmosphere of tension and danger. What's particularly interesting is that the dark tone wasn't only meant to evoke the grimness of the characters' lives, but also to symbolically represent the moral ambiguity of the world the characters inhabited. There were times during production when the filmmakers would have to creatively adapt to the limitations of the locations they were filming in. The often cramped sets and budget constraints forced the team to find inventive ways to light and shoot the film, resulting in some of the most visually striking moments. One of the strangest occurrences during filming was the challenge of shooting the interior scenes of the notorious crack house set. The production team had found a location in New York that they could use for the exterior shots, but the inside of the building was another matter. The original building was so decayed and poorly maintained that the production crew had to rebuild parts of it from scratch. This wasn't an easy task, as the set had to capture the essence of the dangerous, decrepit underworld of drug dealing while still being practical for filming. In fact, the production team spent long hours working on the set, using discarded materials to create the illusion of decay. The crack house itself became a symbol of the decay and moral collapse that permeated the story, and the team's ability to transform a dilapidated building into such an authentic-looking set added a layer of realism to the film. Speaking of realism, New Jack City was known for its brutal depiction of street life, which involved incorporating real-life elements into the narrative. The production team worked with former members of the NYPD and other law enforcement agencies to ensure the film's portrayal of police work was as accurate as possible. What's even more surprising is that several of the extras featured in the film's prison and street scenes were actual former gang members or people with direct experience of urban crime. This added a layer of authenticity to the film, but it also led to some unexpected moments. During filming, some of the actors and extras, who had personal ties to the criminal world, began to feel uncomfortable with how their past experiences were being portrayed. There were moments when the production team had to step in to smooth things over, reminding everyone that the film was a fictional portrayal and not a documentary. This mix of real-world experience and fiction added an edge to the film that was palpable on screen. In addition to the realistic portrayal of street life, the film's music played an essential role in setting the tone and bringing the world of New Jack City to life. The soundtrack of the film became almost as iconic as the movie itself, with several tracks helping to define the cultural moment. The film's use of hip-hop music was integral to its success, and the soundtrack featured prominent artists of the time, including Ice-T, who was not only a key actor in the film but also contributed a track to the movie. Interestingly, the production team didn't originally plan to make the soundtrack such a focal point. However, after Ice-T suggested including his music in the film, they began to explore how the score could complement the story. The result was a powerful musical backdrop that enhanced the movie's atmosphere and became part of the film's lasting legacy in urban culture. The music helped solidify New Jack City as a film that wasn't just about crime but also about the vibrant culture surrounding it, making it a cultural touchstone for many. The film's notorious nightclub scene, where Nino Brown delivers his infamous Cash Money Brothers speech, was shot under intense pressure. The scene, which features Snipes at his most charismatic and menacing, was a crucial moment in the film. However, the production team faced a unique challenge in trying to get the perfect shot. There were issues with the lighting, sound, and timing, and the entire scene had to be reshot multiple times. The actors involved were frustrated by the delays, and Snipes in particular was getting impatient. In the end, the team had to shoot the scene under tight time constraints, with Snipes delivering his powerful lines in one of the most memorable scenes in the film, making the struggles to perfect it seem almost worth it. Another surprising fact about New Jack City involves its influence on popular culture. After its release, the film became a cultural phenomenon, and many of the lines, characters, and moments entered the lexicon of American cinema. The character of Nino Brown became an iconic figure in the world of crime cinema, but the impact didn't stop there. The film's portrayal of the crack epidemic, while controversial at the time, also brought much-needed attention to a crisis that was ravaging cities across America. The brutal depiction of addiction and its effects on communities made New Jack City more than just a crime thriller. It was a commentary on the social and economic conditions that fostered the rise of drug empires like Nino's. Despite all its acclaim, New Jack City wasn't without its struggles at the box office. While the film did eventually turn a profit and became a cult classic, it faced stiff competition from other films of the early 90s, including more traditional action films that dominated the market. However, its gritty, realistic approach to storytelling eventually earned it the respect of audiences and critics alike, and its success on home video solidified its place in cinematic history. The film's themes of loyalty, betrayal, and survival resonated with viewers, making it a critical success that outlasted its initial box office performance. In a final, strange twist, the film's director Mario Van Peebles found himself in an unexpected situation during the film's premiere. After the screening, Van Peebles was approached by a group of real-life gang members who had attended the movie. Instead of the typical Hollywood reaction, where filmmakers might be nervous or defensive, Van Peebles found himself in a heated discussion with them about the portrayal of street life in the film. In a strange turn of events, the gang members expressed admiration for the film's authenticity and respect for its portrayal of their lives, even though they weren't necessarily pleased with all aspects of it. As with many films that leave a lasting legacy, New Jack City's production process was filled with fascinating behind-the-scenes moments that contributed to its success. From casting surprises to unexpected challenges on set, from the creative risks taken to the strange occurrences during filming, the making of the film was a journey that defied expectations. In the end, New Jack City became not just a movie but a cultural moment, one that has continued to inspire filmmakers, musicians, and audiences alike. New Jack City, 1991, is a film that transcends its genre, offering more than just a typical crime drama. It is a layered portrayal of ambition, loyalty, and the brutal realities of urban life, wrapped up in a gripping narrative that explores the intersections of crime, law, and survival. Critical perspectives on the film reveal not only its intense impact but also its role in shaping the conversation around systemic issues and the crack epidemic that plagued the nation at the time. The film's key events and their deeper meanings play a significant role in the film's cultural and emotional resonance. It doesn't just depict the rise and fall of a drug empire but examines the cost of that rise, the relationships torn apart by greed, and the personal sacrifices made in the pursuit of power. One of the most significant events in New Jack City occurs early in the film: the rise of Nino Brown and his Cash Money brothers. Nino, played by Wesley Snipes, is introduced as a man of immense ambition, cunning, and charisma. The way he takes control of the drug trade in New York City is depicted with calculated precision. Nino's strategic rise to power highlights the system of violence and corruption that underpins urban drug dealing. His rise, however, is not simply the story of an individual. It's a reflection of the societal structures that allow individuals like him to thrive. The ruthless efficiency with which Nino establishes his empire is a direct commentary on the ways in which marginalized communities are often forced into a system of survival through crime. The brilliance of the film lies in the way it shows the cracks in this system, illustrating how even those who rise to the top, like Nino, are ultimately victims of it. The dynamics within Nino's empire are also a key event in the film that speaks to the complexities of loyalty and betrayal. As the leader of the Cash Money brothers, Nino commands respect through fear, but his leadership is far from stable. The relationship between Nino and his second-in-command, G Money, played by Payne, is one of the most significant emotional arcs in the film. Early on, their bond is depicted as nearly unbreakable, but as Nino's paranoia and lust for power intensify, cracks begin to form. The growing tension between Nino and G Money serves as a poignant reminder of how ambition can corrupt even the closest of friendships. This tension reaches its climax when Nino, in a moment of cold betrayal, murders G Money, his loyal friend and right-hand man. The emotional weight of this act cannot be overstated, as it encapsulates the theme of how the pursuit of power often comes at the expense of the very relationships that once defined an individual's life. Nino's betrayal of G Money is not an isolated incident. It is part of a larger pattern of manipulation and exploitation that runs throughout the film. As Nino grows more paranoid and his empire begins to crumble, he begins to lose sight of the people who helped him rise to power. He alienates his allies, burns bridges, and ultimately sets in motion his own downfall. This thematic thread is one of the most compelling aspects of the film, as it exposes the fragility of the power that Nino has so carefully constructed. Nino's downfall is not a result of external forces alone, but of his inability to maintain the loyalty and trust of those around him. The film critiques the idea that power can be maintained through fear alone, illustrating how true loyalty is built on trust and respect, not manipulation. Another critical event in the film is the introduction of Detective Scotty Appleton, played by Ice-T. Scotty serves as the film's moral center, a law enforcement officer who becomes obsessed with bringing down Nino and his empire. His quest for justice, however, is not without its own moral dilemmas. Throughout the film, Scotty's actions become increasingly personal, and his desire for revenge clouds his judgment. This shift in Scotty's character is crucial to the film's emotional depth, as it shows how the line between good and evil is often blurred in a world defined by crime and corruption. Scotty's evolution throughout the film is a reflection of the larger themes of justice and morality, as he grapples with the very system he has sworn to uphold. In many ways, Scotty's journey mirrors that of Nino's. Both men are shaped by the corrupt system they inhabit, and both are ultimately forced to confront the moral cost of their actions. The film's portrayal of the crack epidemic is another pivotal event that shapes its impact and reception. Set in the 1980s, during the height of the crack cocaine crisis, New Jack City doesn't shy away from depicting the devastation caused by the drug trade. The film's portrayal of addiction is raw and unflinching, showcasing the human toll of the epidemic on both individuals and communities. The film's opening scene, where the streets of New York are flooded with drug dealers and addicts, sets the stage for the social commentary that follows. The rise of the Cash Money Brothers and Nino Brown's drug empire is portrayed as a direct consequence of the crack epidemic, underscoring the ways in which drugs ravaged urban neighborhoods and created a generation of people trapped in a cycle of addiction and violence. While the film focuses on the criminal elements of the epidemic, it also addresses the ways in which the system, including law enforcement, business, and politics, played a role in exacerbating the problem. Nino's rise to power is depicted as a direct response to the opportunities created by the drug trade, but the film also emphasizes the ways in which those in positions of authority failed to address the root causes of the epidemic. The film doesn't simply blame individuals like Nino or his associates, it points the finger at a society that allowed the conditions for such an empire to flourish. This critique of the systemic nature of crime and addiction is one of the film's most powerful elements, and it resonates with viewers even today. The climax of New Jack City, where Nino's empire finally begins to crumble, is a direct result of his own actions and the betrayal of those closest to him. The film builds to this moment with an intensity that keeps the audience on the edge of their seat, and when the moment finally arrives, it feels both inevitable and heartbreaking. Nino, who had once been so in control, is now at the mercy of those he betrayed, and his downfall is as dramatic as it is tragic. His arrest and subsequent incarceration serve as a sobering reminder of the consequences of his actions. In a final moment of irony, Nino, the once feared drug lord, is reduced to a powerless figure, a man who is ultimately consumed by the system he sought to dominate. The emotional resonance of the film is also tied to its portrayal of the human cost of the drug trade. The character of Pookie, played by Chris Rock, is central to this theme. Pookie is a former addict who becomes an informant for the police, and his arc serves as a poignant reminder of the destructive nature of addiction. His tragic death is one of the film's most heartbreaking moments, as it underscores the futility of the world in which the characters operate. Pookie's death is a direct consequence of his involvement with both the criminal and law enforcement worlds, and it illustrates the ways in which people caught in the drug trade often find themselves trapped, unable to escape the cycle of violence and addiction. One of the most significant aspects of New Jack City is its exploration of the intersection between crime and survival. The characters in the film are not simply criminals, they are people trying to navigate a world that offers few opportunities for escape. Nino's rise to power is driven by his desire for control and wealth, but it is also a desperate attempt to survive in a world that has abandoned him. The same can be said for the other characters in the film, who are forced to make difficult choices in order to survive. Whether it is Scotty's pursuit of justice or G-Money's struggle to maintain loyalty, the characters are defined by their attempts to navigate a world that seems stacked against them. The film doesn't offer easy answers or moral absolutes. It presents a world where survival is often a matter of compromise and sacrifice. Ultimately, The critical perspectives on New Jack City reveal a film that is not just about crime but about the larger societal forces that shape the lives of its characters. The film is a stark commentary on the systemic nature of crime, addiction, and power, and it resonates emotionally because it offers a window into a world that many viewers may not have directly experienced but can still understand. The events of the film, from Nino's rise to his eventual fall, are not just individual stories. They are reflections of larger societal issues that continue to resonate today. The film's emotional depth and thematic complexity ensure its place as a significant work of cinema, one that challenges audiences to think critically about the world around them. Through its portrayal of crime, loyalty, betrayal, and survival, New Jack City becomes more than just a crime film. It becomes a timeless exploration of the human condition. The making of New Jack City, 1991, was as dynamic and full of intrigue as the film itself. From the very beginning, the filmmakers set out to create something more than just another crime movie. They wanted to reflect the socio-political reality of the crack epidemic while delivering a compelling, character-driven narrative. What resulted was a groundbreaking film that would influence the genre and shape discussions about race, power, and survival in urban America. The production process was filled with creative challenges, memorable moments, and a dedication to authenticity that gave the film its unforgettable impact. The idea for New Jack City was born out of the desire to make a film that wasn't just about the drug trade but about the broader systemic issues surrounding it. Writer and director Mario Van Peebles, who also starred in the film, was inspired by the growing crack cocaine epidemic in urban America. At the time, the issue was widespread, and it was deeply affecting communities of color. Van Peebles wanted to make a film that not only entertained but also educated the audience about the human toll of the drug trade. The vision was clear: create a story that combined the allure of the drug world with the underlying messages of tragedy, betrayal, and survival. Van Peebles, known for his ability to tackle heavy social issues, found himself in the director's chair for this project. This would be one of his most ambitious undertakings, especially considering that he was not only directing but also working with a talented ensemble cast, many of whom were at the height of their careers. From the start, the production team was faced with the challenge of balancing the raw depiction of the drug trade with the film's emotional undercurrents. It was essential for the team to ensure that the violent events didn't overshadow the more profound themes of the film. This careful balance between grit and emotion would define New Jack City and make it an iconic entry into the crime genre. The casting of the film was another critical element of the production. Wesley Snipes, who had already shown his talent in a variety of roles, was chosen to play the lead character, Nino Brown. Snipes brought a level of intensity and charisma to the role that would make Nino Brown one of the most memorable villains in cinematic history. Snipes, who was still relatively early in his career at the time, immediately understood the gravity of the character he was portraying. In preparation for the role, Snipes spent time learning about the world of street crime and the intricacies of drug dealing. He wanted to ensure that his performance was authentic, and his transformation into the cold, calculating drug lord Nino was nothing short of remarkable. His performance as Nino became a defining moment in his career, cementing him as a leading man in Hollywood. Opposite Snipes, Ice-T was cast as Detective Scotty Appleton, the dedicated but conflicted cop determined to bring Nino to justice. Ice-T, a rapper turned actor, brought a unique edge to the role. His portrayal of Scotty was grounded in the kind of realism that resonated with the film's audience. Ice-T had to tap into his own experience growing up in New York, as well as his own understanding of crime and law enforcement, to fully inhabit the role. His performance added a layer of depth to the film, as he wasn't just playing the good guy chasing the bad guy. Instead, his character was multifaceted, torn between his duty as a police officer and his personal vendetta against Nino. The character of Scotty, and Ice-T's nuanced performance, was integral to the film's success in addressing the gray areas of morality and justice. Another critical figure in the film was Chris Rock, who played Pookie, a former crack addict turned informant for the police. This role was one of the first major dramatic performances in Rock's career. Known primarily for his comedic work, Rock's turn in New Jack City proved that he had the acting chops to handle more serious material. His portrayal of Pookie was raw and heart-wrenching, and the film used his character to explore themes of addiction, redemption, and the brutal consequences of the drug trade. Rock's dramatic performance in the film was lauded for its emotional depth, showing a side of him that was unfamiliar to many at the time. Behind the scenes, the film's production team worked tirelessly to bring Van Peebles' vision to life. Cinematographer Robert Steadman, who had previously worked on films like Predator 2 and The Lost Boys, was tasked with capturing the gritty urban landscape of New York City. Steadman's work in New Jack City helped establish the film's raw, realistic tone. The use of stark lighting, muted colors, and high-contrast images made the setting feel both menacing and alive, reflecting the tension in the streets where the characters operated. The visual style of the film played a significant role in reinforcing its themes. By making the environment feel almost like a character in itself, it was easier for audiences to understand the pressure and desperation that the characters felt. One of the most iconic moments in the film, and an unforgettable image for many viewers, is the scene where Nino Brown delivers the line, "I'm the King of New York." This moment, emblematic of Nino's inflated ego and his rise to power, became an instant cinematic classic. The filming of this scene, however, wasn't as smooth as it might appear on screen. According to reports, there was an incredible amount of tension between the cast members during this scene, especially between Snipes and the rest of the crew. Snipes, fully committed to his role, stayed in character throughout the entire filming process, even when the cameras weren't rolling. This dedication added a layer of authenticity to the scene, but it also made for an intense atmosphere on set. Another interesting behind-the-scenes fact is that the set design and locations played an essential role in the storytelling. New Jack City was shot on location in New York City, and the filmmakers took great care to capture the authentic look and feel of the streets. The use of real locations, such as dilapidated apartment buildings and gritty alleyways, helped ground the film in its urban setting. The filmmakers wanted the audience to feel the suffocating weight of the city, as though it were a living, breathing entity. The production team worked closely with local communities to gain access to various locations, creating an atmosphere that was as real as it was immersive. This dedication to authenticity helped elevate the film's status as one of the defining films of its era. The music in New Jack City is another aspect of the production that deserves mention. The film's soundtrack, which features a mix of hip-hop, R&B, and soul, perfectly complements its gritty urban setting. The soundtrack includes songs from artists like Ice-T, Queen Latifah, and Keith Sweat, each of which enhances the film's atmosphere. The music also helped reinforce the cultural context of the film, providing a soundtrack that reflected the era's social and political landscape. The score, composed by David Newman, added an extra layer of tension to the film, underscoring the moments of high drama and emotional depth. New Jack City also features a memorable cast of supporting characters, each of whom adds to the film's complexity. The performances of actors like Alan Payne, who played G-Money, and Vanessa Williams, who portrayed Nino's love interest, Selena, were critical in fleshing out the world of the film. Payne, who was known for his roles in television and film, brought a nuanced performance to his role as Nino's loyal but ultimately betrayed second-in-command. Williams, with her beauty and charisma, added an element of vulnerability to the film, providing a counterbalance to the ruthless drug trade that dominated the narrative. One of the more unexpected facts about the production of New Jack City is that the film was made on a relatively modest budget. While the production values are high, the film was not given a huge budget, and the filmmakers had to be resourceful. Despite this, they were able to create a polished, impactful film that resonated with audiences and critics alike. The film's success was a testament to the talent of its director, cast, and crew, who were able to make the most out of limited resources. This sense of resourcefulness and dedication was evident in every aspect of the film, from the direction to the performances to the cinematography. As the film neared its release, there was a palpable sense of excitement surrounding New Jack City. The buzz around the film grew, and when it hit theaters, it was met with a positive reception. Critics praised the film for its unflinching portrayal of the drug trade, its strong performances, and its exploration of timely social issues. The film's success at the box office was a reflection of the cultural impact it had at the time. It became not only a commercial hit but also a cultural touchstone, influencing the way that future crime dramas would be made. The legacy of New Jack City continues to live on, with its impact still being felt in films, television shows, and other media. It was a film that combined entertainment with social commentary, using its story of crime and survival to shed light on the deeper issues facing urban America. The behind-the-scenes stories of the making of New Jack City serve as a reminder of the hard work, creativity, and determination that went into making a film that would stand the test of time. From the intense performances to the resourceful production methods, every aspect of the film came together to create something truly special, something that would go on to become a classic of its genre. The setting of New Jack City is one of its most striking and vital elements. The film's narrative, which delves deep into the seedy, dangerous world of drug trade in New York City during the 1980s, relies heavily on its environment to anchor the audience in a world filled with tension, violence, and moral complexity. The gritty, urban landscape serves not just as a backdrop but as a key player in shaping the mood and tone of the film, contributing significantly to the storytelling. From the cold, gray streets of the city to the luxury penthouses of the drug lords, the settings provide a vivid contrast, illustrating the stark divides between wealth and poverty, law and crime. At the heart of the film's setting is the city of New York itself, which during the 1980s was at the epicenter of the crack cocaine epidemic. The filmmakers made a conscious choice to capture the true essence of the urban decay and social unrest that plagued the city at the time. From the dilapidated buildings to the neon lights of street corners, every setting in New Jack City evokes the harsh reality of a city teetering on the edge. The visual texture of New York becomes a character itself, helping the audience understand the daily grind and desperation that define the lives of the characters. One of the most important locations in the film is the fictional housing project where much of the drug trade takes place. The project is a microcosm of the broader struggles occurring within the city, and it is here that Nino Brown, Wesley Snipes, establishes his criminal empire. The filmmakers used real-life, abandoned housing projects to convey the sense of decay and neglect in urban neighborhoods. The raw, unpolished look of these locations created an immediate sense of authenticity. The project buildings were shown as grim, oppressive structures, and the film uses the setting to highlight the disparity between the wealth and luxury that Nino enjoys as a drug lord and the squalor that the people around him endure. The project buildings become symbols of both poverty and potential danger, constantly looming over the characters' lives like an inescapable force. The stark contrast between Nino's high-rise penthouse and the dilapidated buildings of the projects adds another layer of meaning to the film. Nino's lavish lifestyle is shown through sleek, polished interiors that stand in direct opposition to the grimness of the streets. The penthouse is a reflection of his success, power, and arrogance, but it is also a symbol of the hollow nature of that success. Nino's world is built on the suffering and exploitation of others, and the luxurious setting is merely a facade that hides the moral bankruptcy beneath. The tension between these two settings, the cold, unforgiving streets and the false comfort of Nino's penthouse, creates a powerful visual metaphor for the moral struggle that the film presents. The filmmakers also used the setting to depict the city's vibrant, often chaotic nightlife. The club scenes, which are integral to the film's depiction of Nino's rise to power, are filled with color, lights, and music. These scenes reflect the dangerous allure of the drug trade, where a night out in a club can quickly spiral into violence and death. The use of nightclubs as a setting highlights the seductive nature of the criminal world. The clubs serve as both a backdrop for Nino's business and as spaces where characters like Pookie, Chris Rock, and G-Money, Alan Payne, navigate their roles in the drug game. The nightlife provides a sense of excitement and energy, but it also contrasts sharply with the darker, more brutal reality that follows. These locations serve as symbols of excess, distraction, and a false sense of freedom, places where people, consumed by the allure of wealth and power, are oblivious to the consequences of their actions. Throughout the film, the cinematography plays a crucial role in enhancing the setting and establishing the tone of the story. Robert Steadman, the film's cinematographer, used a combination of lighting, camera angles, and framing to evoke a sense of tension and urgency. The film is often lit with harsh, high-contrast lighting that creates deep shadows, which only intensify the bleakness of the world the characters inhabit. The use of shadow is particularly effective in scenes where characters are making morally questionable decisions or where danger is lurking just out of sight. The interplay between light and shadow becomes a visual representation of the moral ambiguity that defines much of the film. The film's color palette also contributes to its atmosphere. The muted gray tones of the city's streets contrast with the warmer hues of the interiors, such as the dark red tones of Nino's penthouse or the neon lights in the clubs. This contrast helps to underscore the themes of duality in the film: the divide between the public and private lives of the characters, the contrast between the harsh reality of the streets and the illusion of luxury. The visual elements, from the grim urban decay to the polished surfaces of the upper echelons of the drug world, highlight the stark differences in how different classes experience the same city. This use of color also adds to the sense of claustrophobia that permeates much of the film. Whether it's the cramped conditions of the housing projects or the cold, sterile luxury of Nino's high-rise, the characters are constantly trapped in their environments, unable to escape the cycles of violence and corruption that define their world. The camera work in New Jack City also plays an important role in shaping the film's emotional resonance. The use of tight, intimate shots throughout the film brings the audience into the characters' personal worlds. We are often placed close to the characters, almost as if we are standing beside them, experiencing their struggles firsthand. This creates a sense of intimacy, making the audience feel the weight of their decisions, their pain, and their triumphs. In contrast, when the camera pulls back, the characters are shown in wide shots, lost in the vast, impersonal cityscape. This visual technique reinforces the idea of the characters being trapped within the larger social and economic forces that shape their lives. The camera becomes a tool for emphasizing the characters' emotional and physical isolation, reinforcing the themes of disconnection and alienation that permeate the film. One of the most striking uses of cinematography in the film occurs during the climactic moments of the movie, particularly during the final confrontation between Nino and Detective Scotty Appleton, Ice-T. The tension of this scene is built not only through the performances of the actors but also through the use of close-up shots, slow motion, and dynamic camera movements. As the stakes rise and the characters' fates hang in the balance, the camera work intensifies, mimicking the increasing pressure and danger of the situation. The shaky handheld camera in some of these scenes also adds to the feeling of unease, as if the audience is caught in the middle of the action, unsure of what will happen next. The culmination of these elements, setting, cinematography, and performance, makes for a visually powerful and emotionally charged finale that leaves a lasting impact on the viewer. The sound design and music of New Jack City also work in tandem with the setting and cinematography to deepen the film's atmosphere. The music, composed by David Newman, is both haunting and evocative, providing a score that underscores the high-stakes drama of the film while also capturing the grim urban atmosphere. The music pulses with the rhythm of the city, adding to the sense of urgency and danger. The soundtrack, which features iconic tracks from artists like Ice-T and Queen Latifah, further enhances the sense of the time and place in which the story takes place. The music not only reflects the era but also helps to convey the mood of the film, from the fast-paced, adrenaline-fueled moments to the quieter, more reflective scenes in the final analysis. The setting and cinematic elements of New Jack City are not just decorative flourishes but essential parts of the story. The film's locations and visual style create an atmosphere that immerses the audience in the world of the characters, while also reflecting the themes of power, corruption, and survival that define the narrative. Through the use of realistic urban settings, dynamic cinematography, and a carefully curated soundtrack, the filmmakers crafted a film that is as much about its environment as it is about the people within it. The film settings are more than just places. They are active players in the story, shaping the characters and their decisions, as well as reinforcing the film's emotional and thematic resonance. The story of New Jack City is one of intense drama and gripping moral dilemmas. Beneath the surface of gang warfare, corrupt cops, and drug lords lies a story that's deeply rooted in themes of power, survival, and the human cost of systemic violence. As much as New Jack City delivers thrills and suspense, it's the themes that give the film its lasting resonance. The filmmakers didn't just want to show a simple tale of crime and punishment. They sought to portray the impact of addiction, the struggles of survival in a brutal system, and the complex morality of the characters involved. At the heart of the film is the theme of power. The central figure, Nino Brown, is a textbook representation of power in its most corrupt form. A man who rises from nothing, Nino embodies the allure of power that's achieved through control and fear. Throughout the film, we see him manipulate people, whether it's his street soldiers, women, or even law enforcement, in order to build his empire. He believes that power is the ultimate goal, and he will stop at nothing to achieve and maintain it. His transformation into a ruthless drug lord is portrayed as both seductive and horrifying. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when one becomes consumed by the desire for power, and it serves as a metaphor for the corruption of the American dream in the context of the crack cocaine epidemic. Nino's rise and fall as a drug kingpin underscore the dangerous nature of power when it's wielded without empathy or conscience. The film's depiction of power is also intertwined with the theme of survival. For many of the characters, survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about finding a way to navigate a corrupt, dangerous world that offers few opportunities for a better life. This theme is evident in the characters of Detective Scotty Appleton and Pookie. Scotty, a cop who has his own personal vendetta against Nino, is trapped in a system that doesn't always support justice or fairness. He fights not just against the criminals but against a corrupt police force that's willing to look the other way in exchange for money. His fight for survival is both personal and professional. He's driven by a desire to take down Nino, but as the story progresses, he realizes that the system he works for may be just as corrupt as the criminals he's chasing. His struggle is a larger reflection of the societal systems that prey on the disenfranchised, where the fight for survival often means compromising one's morals or giving up on hope altogether. Similarly, Pookie's journey also represents survival, but his fight is more internal. Pookie is a former drug addict who, despite his past, tries to turn his life around. His arc speaks to the themes of redemption and self-worth, and his character is a symbol of the constant struggle to escape from the grip of addiction and the criminal life. Pookie's efforts to stay clean, despite the temptations and betrayals he faces, represent a desire to break free from the cycle of violence and addiction that has taken hold of his community. He becomes a pawn in the larger game of survival, but his personal journey offers a glimpse of hope amidst the darkness. Pookie's character reflects the consequences of drug addiction not only on the individual but also on the larger community. His storyline highlights the trap that the drug trade creates, a trap that many find themselves unable to escape. Another key theme in New Jack City is the theme of loyalty and betrayal. The film intricately weaves a complex web of alliances and betrayals, with characters constantly shifting allegiances based on personal ambition, survival, and self-interest. Nino's crew, for example, is made up of individuals who are loyal to him because of the power and wealth he offers. However, as the story progresses, loyalty begins to fracture. Nino's pursuit of power drives him to make ruthless decisions, including betraying those closest to him. He manipulates his inner circle, using fear and greed to maintain control, but he also shows a complete lack of loyalty to anyone but himself. This betrayal extends to his relationship with his second-in-command, G Money, who grows increasingly disillusioned with Nino's methods. The theme of loyalty is also explored through the relationship between Detective Appleton and his partner, Nick. Their bond is tested throughout the film as they confront the moral complexities of their job. While Nick is more focused on the paycheck and getting the job done, Appleton is driven by a personal vendetta against Nino, which leads to moments of tension and betrayal between them. The film's exploration of loyalty speaks to the idea that the line between right and wrong isn't always clear. The characters are constantly navigating a world where loyalty is tested by ambition, revenge, and survival. In this world, loyalty is a fragile thing, and betrayal often becomes a means of survival or gaining power. In addition to power, survival, and loyalty, New Jack City also delves into the theme of family and community. The concept of family is explored not just in terms of blood relations, but in terms of the chosen family that forms through shared experiences and survival. Nino's family is made up of his crew members, people who serve as both allies and pawns in his quest for dominance. The film presents a warped version of family, where loyalty is bought and sold, and relationships are based on power dynamics rather than genuine care or connection. This is most evident in Nino's relationship with his mother. While Nino professes love for her, his actions toward her are cold and detached, revealing that for him, family is just another tool for maintaining his empire. On the other hand, the characters of Scotty and Pookie offer a more genuine representation of family and community. Scotty's relationship with his partner, Nick, is one of mutual trust and respect, despite their differing approaches to justice. The film also highlights the importance of community when Pookie, after being taken under the wing of the police, begins to understand the depth of his own worth and what it means to truly belong. Pookie's transformation is in part due to the support he receives from those around him, showing that even in the most difficult circumstances, genuine human connection can provide a path out of darkness. The symbolism throughout New Jack City is another layer that deepens its thematic exploration. One of the most potent symbols in the film is the setting itself, the crack house. The building where Nino and his crew operate becomes a symbol of decay and corruption. It's a place where lives are destroyed, not just physically but also spiritually. The crack house represents the heart of Nino's empire, but it also stands as a metaphor for the social decay caused by the drug epidemic. It's in this space that the film's themes of survival, power, and betrayal converge, creating a microcosm of the larger societal issues at play. Another powerful symbol in the film is Nino's golden throne. As the kingpin of the drug trade, Nino literally and figuratively sits atop his empire, a throne that symbolizes his control and dominance over the streets. However, as the story unfolds, the throne becomes a symbol of his isolation and hubris. While he sits at the top, he's also surrounded by enemies, and his power is ultimately tenuous. The throne, then, is a symbol not just of power but of the fragility of that power and the inevitable downfall that comes when one becomes too consumed by it. There's also the symbolism of the blue magic drug that Nino and his crew distribute. The name itself, blue magic, is an ironic symbol of the allure of the drug trade. The drug is presented as something almost magical, a substance that promises power, wealth, and control. But just like the illusions of power, the drug brings destruction and death. The blue magic is symbolic of the false promises that the drug trade offers, an escape from poverty, an answer to life's problems, but ultimately, it leads only to devastation. The drug symbolism ties directly into the themes of the film, showing how the characters, particularly Nino, are caught in a web of deceit and false hope. New Jack City is a film rich in thematic depth, where the exploration of power, survival, loyalty, family, and community is paired with potent symbols that bring those themes to life. The characters' journeys through these thematic struggles reflect the larger societal issues at play, making the film not just a compelling crime drama but a profound exploration of the human experience. Each of the characters, from Nino to Pookie, from Scotty to G-Money, is navigating a world where power is fleeting, survival is a constant battle, and loyalty can be a dangerous game. And through it all, the symbolism of the crack house, the throne, and the blue magic serves as a reminder of the destructive nature of the system they're all trapped in, a system that doesn't just steal lives but destroys souls. The story of New Jack City goes beyond its plot and characters, stretching into the very techniques that brought it to life on the screen. The filmmaking behind this gritty, intense drama is as layered and complex as the characters it portrays, with each decision, from the use of sound to the methods of editing and cinematography, serving to intensify the film's atmosphere. Director Mario Van Peebles and his crew managed to create a world that feels real, raw, and immersive, pulling viewers into the chaotic, dangerous streets of New York City during the height of the crack epidemic. Their choices not only enhance the storytelling but elevate the film into a visual and auditory experience that stays with the audience long after the credits roll. One of the most powerful filmmaking techniques used in New Jack City is its cinematography. Cinematographer Alex Thompson, known for his work on films like The Color Purple, contributed significantly to the film's distinct visual style. The way the camera moves, the lighting choices, and the overall composition of the shots all serve to reflect the gritty, grim world of the characters. From the opening frames, where the camera tracks through the streets of New York City, we are immediately thrust into the heart of the urban jungle. The city feels alive, chaotic, and unforgiving, with a mixture of natural lighting and harsh neon hues casting an ominous glow over the entire film. The use of shadows and light is perhaps the most significant cinematic element in New Jack City. The contrast between the shadowy, almost noir-like visuals of the underground drug scene and the harsh, glaring light of police investigations and confrontations underscores the moral duality at play in the story. The crack house, for example, is depicted in dark, oppressive tones that mirror the destruction happening inside. The dingy interiors, lit with low-level lighting and often filled with smoke, create an atmosphere of dread and decay, reflecting the consequences of the characters' choices. These visual choices are essential for amplifying the emotional tension, with the cinematography often enhancing the sense of claustrophobia and hopelessness that defines the environment. In contrast, when we see the police officers, the lighting is brighter, almost clinical. There's a sense of order, but it's also sterile and detached. The film uses these visual contrasts to explore the divide between the criminal world and the law, with the streets of the city standing as the battleground for both. The dark shadows serve as a constant reminder of the danger lurking around every corner, while the harsh lights often signify the disillusionment of those trying to bring justice to a broken system. These cinematographic choices provide the perfect backdrop for the complex characters who navigate this world of power, survival, and betrayal. The film's editing further shapes the narrative, keeping the pacing tight and building suspense at just the right moments. The rapid cuts during action sequences, particularly in the climactic scenes, keep the energy high, while slower, more deliberate cuts are used in scenes of tension or introspection. One of the film's most effective editing techniques is its use of cross-cutting between the action on the streets and the investigation by the police. These moments create a sense of duality, as we're shown the violence and brutality of the drug trade alongside the efforts to bring it down. This juxtaposition not only builds the tension between the characters but also highlights the contrasts between the lawless world of the drug dealers and the increasingly corrupt world of law enforcement. The editing also plays a crucial role in establishing the film's tone. At times, the rhythm of the editing mimics the quick, erratic pace of the characters' lives, as they constantly move from one crisis to another. During the film's slower moments, the editing creates a sense of weight and introspection, particularly in scenes where the characters are faced with moral dilemmas. These choices reflect the uncertainty and emotional toll that the world of drugs and crime takes on those who are caught up in it. The film doesn't just rush through these moments. Instead, it lingers on the characters' faces, allowing the audience to witness their internal struggles. Beyond the visuals, the use of sound in New Jack City is another critical aspect of its filmmaking. The film's sound design is intricate, with music, dialogue, and ambient noise all playing a key role in establishing the world. The soundtrack, composed of tracks by artists like Ice-T, Biz Markie, and Queen Latifah, perfectly captures the film's era and adds a layer of authenticity to the setting. The music often shifts between being upbeat and jazzy, to dark and ominous, in keeping with the film's thematic concerns. Songs like New Jack Hustler by Ice-T become almost like anthems for the characters, particularly for Nino, whose rise in the drug world is marked by his ambition and desire for power. The soundtrack captures the spirit of the times, further immersing the audience in the gritty, dangerous atmosphere of New York City during the late 80s and early 90s. The sound design does more than just set the stage, though. It is essential to building the tension in the film. The crackling sound of gunfire during intense shootouts, the echoing sirens of police cars, and the pulsating beats of music all create a rhythm of danger that keeps the audience on edge. The film often uses silence strategically to enhance the feeling of isolation or impending doom. In quieter moments, particularly during scenes of reflection or betrayal, the lack of sound serves to amplify the emotional weight of the characters' choices. It's a reminder of how much is at stake, and how, in this world, even silence can be a warning. The voice of the characters also plays an important role in the film's use of sound. The delivery of dialogue, particularly by Wesley Snipes as Nino Brown, is charged with tension and emotion. Snipes' performance is marked by his commanding, almost hypnotic voice, which he uses to manipulate those around him. Nino's speech is deliberate, calculated, and full of bravado, mirroring the way he builds his empire. In contrast, characters like Scotty Appleton, played by Ice-T, have a more measured and gritty delivery, which reflects his internal conflict and his sense of justice. The difference in their voices not only distinguishes the characters but also highlights their contrasting approaches to power and survival in the world they inhabit. The editing, cinematography, and sound design work together seamlessly to create an atmosphere that is as much a character in the film as the people on screen. The urban setting of New York City, the intensity of the drug trade, and the moral struggles of the characters are all brought to life by these techniques. The result is a film that's both visually stunning and emotionally resonant, pulling the audience into a world that feels dangerous, desperate, and alive with possibility. The filmmaking isn't just a means of telling a story. It becomes an integral part of the narrative, shaping the viewer's experience and understanding of the world. In terms of box office production, New Jack City was a surprise success, particularly for a film that tackled such difficult and controversial subjects. Released in 1991, the film grossed over $47 million in the United States, an impressive figure for a crime drama at the time. It was a breakthrough for both Wesley Snipes and director Mario Van Peebles, who had made a name for themselves in the industry with their bold choices and willingness to tackle hard-hitting social issues. The film's success was partly due to its timely release, as it resonated with audiences who were living through the crack epidemic and the growing awareness of its devastating effects on urban communities. It also came at a time when crime dramas and urban stories were beginning to gain traction in Hollywood, paving the way for films like Boys and the Hood and Menace to Society. The success of New Jack City was not only measured in box office numbers but also in its cultural impact. The film became a touchstone for discussions about race, poverty, and crime in America. It gave a voice to a generation of young people who felt overlooked by mainstream cinema, and its portrayal of life in the streets of New York City resonated deeply with many viewers. The film was praised for its unapologetic depiction of the realities of the drug trade, and its characters, both good and bad, were seen as complex and multifaceted. The film's use of the urban setting, its gritty realism, and its exploration of moral ambiguity helped cement its place as a classic in the genre. New Jack City also benefited from the performances of its cast, with Wesley Snipes delivering a career-defining performance as Nino Brown. His portrayal of the drug kingpin is both charismatic and chilling, and it's his presence that holds the film together. Ice-T's portrayal of the conflicted detective Scotty Appleton adds a layer of depth and complexity to the film, creating a balance between the law and the lawlessness of the drug world. The dynamic between the characters, combined with the film's atmospheric filmmaking techniques, helped to elevate New Jack City into a film that wasn't just a box office hit but also a critical success. In conclusion, the filmmaking techniques used in New Jack City, from the cinematography and editing to the sound design and soundtrack, play a crucial role in creating an atmosphere that's as intense and captivating as the story itself. These techniques serve not only to tell the story but to enhance the emotional and thematic resonance of the film, pulling the audience into a world of danger, corruption, and moral complexity. The film's success at the box office and its lasting cultural impact are a testament to the power of these techniques in shaping the viewer's experience. By combining technical skill with a strong narrative and memorable performances, New Jack City remains a standout in the genre and a defining moment in 1990s cinema. The cast of New Jack City is one of the key elements that helped propel the film to its iconic status. The performances from the lead actors, supported by a talented ensemble, elevated the story of drug kingpins and law enforcement into an unforgettable cinematic experience. From the formidable Wesley Snipes as Nino Brown to Ice-T as the struggling detective Scotty Appleton, the film's cast brought to life the raw emotional intensity of the characters while delivering complex portrayals that left a lasting impact on audiences. Behind the camera, interviews with the cast and crew reveal just how much thought and effort went into creating this gritty crime drama. Together, the cast, the film's interviews, and the subsequent audience reactions provide an insightful look at how New Jack City became a cultural milestone. At the heart of New Jack City is Wesley Snipes' portrayal of Nino Brown, a charismatic and ruthless drug kingpin. Snipes' performance is nothing short of legendary. He took on the role of Nino with such intensity and depth that it became one of his most iconic roles, helping to define his career. Nino is no ordinary villain. He's a multifaceted character driven by ambition, survival, and an insatiable lust for power. Snipes made sure to give Nino a magnetic charm. He's as manipulative as he is captivating. When he walks into a room, he owns it, and Snipes captured that commanding presence with ease. In interviews, Snipes has shared that playing Nino required him to dive into the character's psyche and understand the complexity of a man who's both a product of his environment and someone who chooses to perpetuate the cycle of violence. The character's vulnerability, which is gradually revealed throughout the film, is what makes Nino so compelling. Snipes didn't want Nino to simply be a villain for the sake of being bad. He wanted audiences to understand his motivations. This deep dive into character development made Snipes' performance stand out and added layers to the otherwise straightforward archetype of a drug lord. Wesley Snipes' take on Nino also showcased the character's emotional vulnerability. While Nino's exterior is cold, calculating, and often brutal, Snipes expertly layered in moments of fragility, which gives the character an unexpected depth. In the iconic scene where Nino reflects on his rise to power and the loss of his family, Snipes' ability to balance ruthless power and subtle vulnerability shines. It's these shades of gray in Nino's character that resonated with audiences and made Snipes' performance a touchstone in the genre. Equally important to the film's success is Ice-T's portrayal of Scotty Appleton, the dedicated and morally conflicted detective who is determined to bring Nino down. Ice-T's background as a rapper gave him a unique edge in this role, infusing Scotty with a toughness that felt both authentic and earned. In interviews, Ice-T shared that while he was no stranger to the world of street culture, stepping into the shoes of a police officer presented a challenge. However, his ability to channel the inner turmoil of a character torn between law enforcement and the realities of urban life was remarkable. Scotty is not just fighting crime. He's also struggling with personal demons, and Ice-T brought that internal conflict to the surface with a performance that feels raw and grounded. What made Ice-T's portrayal of Scotty so powerful was his ability to connect with the audience through a shared sense of justice and frustration. Scotty's mission to dismantle Nino's empire is personal, not just because of the crime Nino commits but because of the broader social ramifications. Ice-T's performance made Scotty feel like an everyman, a figure that the audience could root for and relate to. He's caught between two worlds, the gritty streets he grew up on and the establishment he's now a part of. This duality added complexity to the character, and it's this complexity that makes Ice-T's portrayal memorable. Another standout performance in the film is from Chris Rock, who plays Pookie, a former crack addict who becomes a crucial informant for the police. Rock's comedic chops were evident in the film, but he managed to balance his usual humor with the heavy, heartbreaking reality of his character's situation. Pookie's arc is a tragic one, and Rock's performance captures that tragicomic essence. In interviews, Chris Rock revealed how challenging it was to play such a dark role, especially since he was more accustomed to comedic parts. However, he embraced the challenge, and his performance as Pookie added both depth and emotional resonance to the narrative. His character's fall from grace, struggling with addiction and trying to redeem himself, resonated deeply with audiences and became one of the more memorable aspects of the film. The ensemble cast also featured notable performances from actors like Payne, who played the street-savvy, moralistic drug dealer G-Money. Payne brought a sense of loyalty and brotherhood to the role, making G-Money a sympathetic character despite his association with Nino. His complex relationship with Nino, filled with tension and eventual betrayal, highlighted the tragic nature of loyalty in a world built on crime. The dynamic between Payne and Snipes was one of the film's strongest points, adding an element of emotional conflict to the otherwise brutal action sequences. Other members of the cast, including Judd Nelson and Michael Michelle, also brought their characters to life in ways that complemented the core story. Nelson, in particular, brought a sense of world-weariness to his role as the corrupt and increasingly desperate detective, and Michael Michelle portrayed a strong and determined woman caught up in the chaos. The diversity of the characters and their distinct personalities created a compelling contrast that helped drive the film's themes home. The interactions between the cast and the crew were integral to the film's success. Mario Van Peebles, both the director and a key actor in the film, brought an energy to the set that kept everyone focused on delivering the best possible performances. Van Peebles was known for his bold, unconventional filmmaking style, and he didn't shy away from pushing his cast to explore the darker sides of their characters. In interviews, Snipes and Ice-T both praised Van Peebles for his ability to create an environment that allowed them to give their best performances. The director's commitment to authenticity was reflected in his relationships with the cast. He wanted the actors to inhabit their characters fully, immersing them in the world they were portraying, which led to performances that felt raw and believable. The challenges faced during filming were numerous, especially since New Jack City was tackling such serious and intense subject matter. One of the biggest challenges was ensuring that the film accurately represented the crack epidemic without exploiting it. In interviews, the cast and crew explained how they worked hard to balance the gritty portrayal of street life with a sense of humanity, never allowing the drug trade or the violence to overshadow the characters' emotional struggles. It was important to the filmmakers that the story wasn't just about the sensational aspects of crime, but also about the moral consequences that followed. This challenge made for a particularly intense and emotional production process, with cast and crew often finding themselves reflecting on the impact of the film. New Jack City's success wasn't limited to its production. It was also met with an overwhelming positive response from audiences. Fans and critics alike praised the film for its realistic portrayal of the crack epidemic, its complex characters, and its unflinching look at the criminal underworld. Audience reviews highlighted the strength of the performances, particularly Snipes and Ice-T, and the film's unapologetic exploration of the moral and societal issues surrounding drug addiction. The film's ability to balance action and drama, while delving deep into the psychology of its characters, made it a unique entry in the crime genre. Critics and fans alike also noted the film's ability to bring attention to the real-life issues of urban decay, drug addiction, and systemic inequality, making it more than just another crime movie. New Jack City didn't shy away from showing the brutal reality of life in the streets, but it also highlighted the personal struggles of its characters, showing how the cycle of crime and addiction affected not only the perpetrators but also their families, friends, and communities. Audience members often commented on how the film made them rethink the complex factors that led to the rise of the drug trade, as well as the impact it had on society as a whole. One common thread in audience reviews was the film's lasting impact. Decades after its release, New Jack City continues to be celebrated for its bold storytelling, its powerful performances, and its unapologetic look at the harsh realities of the urban drug scene. Fans continue to cite it as one of the defining films of the 1990s, and its cultural influence can be seen in numerous films and TV shows that followed. In conclusion, New Jack City stands as a classic example of how a talented cast, behind-the-scenes collaboration, and audience connection can create a film that resonates long after it has left the theaters. From the powerhouse performances of Wesley Snipes, Ice-T, and Chris Rock to the challenging yet rewarding production process, the film's success lies in its authenticity and depth. The cast and crew's dedication to portraying the complexities of their characters and the social issues they represented made New Jack City not just a box office success, but a film that became a cultural touchstone. The audience reviews reflect this impact, highlighting how New Jack City continues to be celebrated for its powerful performances and its nuanced take on crime, family, and survival in the face of a broken system. As we reach the end of our deep dive into New Jack City, 1991, it's clear that this film stands as an indelible piece of cinematic history. The way it blends action, drama, and social commentary has cemented it as one of the defining films of the 1990s. From its gripping plot to its unforgettable characters and the stellar performances by a talented cast, the film continues to resonate with audiences more than 3 decades later. In this video, we've explored the key elements that made New Jack City such a lasting success, from its intriguing characters to the significant events that unfold and the critical perspectives that have shaped its legacy. We've also delved into the behind-the-scenes stories, the filmmaking techniques that gave the film its distinctive visual style, and the powerful themes that make it more than just another crime drama. One of the standout aspects of New Jack City is its rich, multi-layered plot, which combines intense action with profound social commentary. The film opens with the rise of Nino Brown, played by Wesley Snipes, as the head of the ruthless drug empire known as the Cash Money Brothers. Nino is a complex villain, charismatic and menacing, yet deeply vulnerable, which is part of what makes his character so compelling. Through his rise to power, the film explores the ways in which the drug trade affects not only the lives of those involved but also the communities they inhabit.